fact is that now, in quite a few polls, even if you kind of gather together all the anti-Trump faction, i.e. DeSantis' numbers, Nikki Haley's numbers, Mike Pence's numbers, etc., Trump is still looking pretty good out there. So, it's extraordinary how resilient Donald Trump just is.
Could Ron DeSantis be the man who will scupper Donald Trump's hopes of another run at the White House? He's the favourite to challenge Trump for the Republican nomination at the 2024 election. And the anti-woke Florida governor has been speaking to the Times' US editor, David Charter, talking about why the White House needs more vigour. He's also been talking about how much he loves the UK and how he's a strong supporter of Brexit. Well, let's get more on this from Sarah Baxter, who is director of the Marie Colvin Institute for International Reporting. Sarah, a very good evening to you.
Hello, Carole.
The Republican, the battle for the Republican nomination, so far, Donald Trump is out there in front. Then there's Nikki Haley, who's thrown her hat into the ring. But what about Ron DeSantis? He's the governor of Florida. What do you read into what he's been saying?
Well, first of all, he's just published a book, which is one of those rites of passage that presidential candidates need to go through or think they do. And one of the things about Ron DeSantis is he's currently very successful governor of Florida. But he doesn't want to start his campaign prematurely. He probably wants to launch this summer, once sort of Florida's businesses sort of closed down for the holiday season. And he needs to keep his name up in lights. And the bad news for everybody who's
we seem to have lost the line to Sarah there. We will try and get the line back and continue that fascinating conversation about who's going to be the Republican contender in 2024. We were talking about Ron DeSantis. We've got Sarah back again. Sarah, he's written a book. He hasn't declared yet, but everyone seems to think he's going to.
Oh, he's definitely going to, unless he gets scared off by some rather bad polling figures that have come out lately. Because Donald Trump's been hogging the airwaves. This, no doubt, is why Ron DeSantis is so keen to get his book out there and publicize it. But the fact is that at one stage, Ron DeSantis was ahead of Donald Trump in the polls for the Republican nomination. This was after the Republicans' disappointing performance in the midterm elections, particularly with the most Trumpy candidate. But the fact is that now, in quite a few polls, even if you kind of gather together all the anti-Trump faction, i.e. DeSantis' numbers, Nikki Haley's numbers, Mike Pence's numbers, etc., Trump is still looking pretty good out there. So, it's extraordinary how resilient Donald Trump just is. And also, here's an interesting thing. Ron DeSantis has been very successful sort of anti-woke warrior, but he does seem increasingly authoritarian. And Trump has been having a field day accusing him of wanting to cut Medicare, cut Social Security, not really be a kind of blue-collar guy, be more one of those globalist Republican elites. And I wonder whether that's hurting him.
What's fascinating is that Ron DeSantis was seen by Trump as a key ally, but now that he's a potential rival, Trump is really turning his fire on him, isn't it? And of course, that makes life very difficult.
Yeah, Trump is really hammering Ron DeSantis at the moment. He's taken to calling him Ron DeSanctus now, as opposed to Ron DeSanctimonious, because nobody could get their sort of tongue around that twister. But Trump doesn't take any prisoners when he's sort of fighting for supremacy. He's absolutely determined to squash DeSantis. And it's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that he'd be quite as successful as he's proving to be so far. DeSantis is really coming under pressure now to show his mettle. He can definitely bounce back. The good thing from DeSantis' point of view is his numbers can only really go up. Like everybody who likes Trump already is probably in his camp. But, it's still a long road ahead. And I think people who were confidently predicting that DeSantis was going to make mincemeat of Trump are having to revise their opinion.
And of course, the way these battles go for each of the two big parties to get their nominee if Donald Trump, who's got a pretty solid fan base, though not, of course, an overwhelming majority, but if he's up against a whole clutch of other candidates, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, you mentioned Mike Pence, maybe Mike Pompeo, and maybe one or two others, then that could actually work to Trump's favor, couldn't it?
Oh, definitely. That would be 2016 all over again, when nobody really fancied Trump's chances. And funnily enough, at that time, Jeb Bush was the favorite, a former governor of Florida. Now, Jeb Bush has come into the race and endorsed Ron DeSantis. And I'm not sure that DeSantis is really going to thank him for it, because people like Jeb Bush are seen as the old Republican establishment, the one that Trump fought hard to get rid of. And Trump is trying to portray DeSantis as a sort of creature of that establishment in phony sort of Trumpist clothing. Obviously Trump used to like him as long as, he was bending the knee to, yours truly, Donald Trump. But of course, once he became a threat, Trump is really firing on all cylinders against him.
And you talked about 2016 all over again. I mean, we could be ending up with a rerun of the last presidential election in 2019 because Biden at the moment looks all set to run for the Democrats. And my goodness, he could then find himself back up against Donald Trump.
Oh, don't, Carole, but I think you might be right. It really is a desperate situation where so many people on both the Republican and the Democratic side would love to see another nominee. But the truth is, Joe Biden, he's addressing the party faithful. As we speak, he's on live at a big Democratic Party caucus meeting tonight in Maryland. And funnily enough, Donald Trump speaking at a similar-ish meeting for the Republicans coming up soon, which started today. He'll be speaking later in the week. It's a bit like spring conference season in Britain. And you know what? Joe Biden's looking pretty cocky and cheerful and touting all his achievements and looking like he's definitely the man to watch in 24. Whether he'll get there, who knows?
Fascinating stuff. Sarah Baxter, director of the Marie Colvin Institute for International Reporting. Really good to speak to you, Sarah. Thanks so much.